We're live.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are now at the consent agenda portion of our agenda, and this will only have the minutes from June 16th, 2021. The notice of resolution 2020-1005 has been moved to H under discussion and possible action. And there wasn't an edit to the minutes that has been corrected. And so if we could have the approval of the consent agenda.
I so move.
My second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're now at discussion and possible action. And first item is Grandkids funding request. I see Ashley is here. So this was the ask is, you want to come up to the podium and yeah, so you just identify yourself for the audience.
Hi, I'm Ashley Bobo. I'm the Executive Director for Grandkids Learning Center in Fraser. We have two locations, one right behind you guys right now, and the other in the Wapiti Meadows Housing Addition. So
perfect. And Grandkids has asked for $50,000. Is that amount changed? Did the county and Winter Park give?
no, they we're only available to apply during their grant cycle, which we will be applying for the next option or opportunity, and we do every year.
Okay, well, that's too bad.
I know.
They, like the county would make an exception for our kids.
They said to talk to Grand Foundation, and
Oh, wow.
it was within the grant cycle.
Okay, so it's Fraser's gonna lead the charge on.
But since then, we have written strong letters of just understanding of the childcare crisis in the center that have been sent out to them along with other community providers. So,
Okay,
our supporters.
board.
Did you identify any of the COVID sources at all? Or COVID relief sources for funding?
So the state still has not released any new sources for us right now. The only new change since I spoke to you guys last was that I was able to reach out to a former employee that had moved away and moved back. And when I told her that we would be able to do raises, she accepted a job back. So we have one position filled, but I am transporting her from Granby to Fraser as she doesn't have transportation for that. So, and working on other community supports to get her to and fro. That's what.
Did you do overall state representative?
I have not personally yet.
Yeah,
So
she or her Granby meeting, they're just a few days ago, I have a lot of different state sources that are COVID funded.
yes. Yeah, and we are hopeful to hear more about the opening because since they have finished the legislation, they are supposed to, but nothing has been released officially to us. Yes. Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. So.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah.
We had briefly talked, we've had a couple people from the community say they would wish that you could stay open 5 days a week because people are actually leaving the workforce. And so I don't know
if you want me to address that,
yeah,
I can.
I would, I guess I would.
Yeah. So right now, the amount of employees that we have and the amount of COVID cleaning regulations before and after, and just keeping our staffs and our building and our kids safe, that we have to not only have teachers there before, but also after opening. And so our teachers are already maxing out at the 40 hours a week, and we can't hire additional staff to fully staff a Friday program because the staff that we have are all working minus one staff that we have 1 day a week when she's able to come is the only one that's not getting close to that overtime option or that overtime status for us. So we just have not been able to do it, nor has our Friday enrollment ever been so highly sought after that we can support keeping both centers open. And so prior to COVID, we were having to do a mixed group on Fridays out of our younger building that we have actually gone to the state for special support submission, a waiver request to allow us to operate each classroom as needed for that day for age group, which typically, just for understanding, whatever space a classroom is in, they're only supposed to be licensed for one age group. And it should stay that one age group for that entire time. And if you change it, you should do a change of approval and have to go through relicensing and everything. But we have written a waiver request to allow us the option of switching the classrooms as needed. So that's how we were able to operate on Fridays out of one building and utilize the staff and make those make that enrollment work. And we are resubmitting for that waiver so that it is still an option as we are moving into finishing 2021 and into 2022, because that is our ultimate goal, would be to go back to that 5-day-a-week program prior. But right now, with the lack of staffing and no options, our teachers are maxed out with the
So you
capacity.
raised the wages and the staff came back, is that?
Well,
So
so
you
we
need to raise the
we
rates.
we
Your-
did, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I'm sure your parents know.
So we are raising the first set of rates. We did an increment and it's coming in September, and it's and then the next one in January is what our board has approved at this time.
Yes.
So
We really appreciate it. So I wish you could be open
I know.
7 days a week. So,
Yeah,
'cause
well,
we
and
are,
that's what
you know,
with the
we're tourist driven and a lot of people work on Saturday and
Yeah.
Sunday as well. So,
well, and as
but-
soon as those COVID regulations and the kids are able to get vaccinated, we would be able to go back to, because my younger site director, Kim, always ran a Saturday program through the heightened seasons to give that opportunity for families, and always gave priority to the enrolled families, but also able to serve those, that tourist and vacationers. But we haven't been able to operate that with that mixing cohorts and that contamination of different, COVID concerns.
Okay.
So.
Any other board comments, questions?
Yeah.
Motions?
Well,
All
as this
great
does fall
comments.
under the American Rescue Plan Act as a qualifying expense, I would like to make a motion that we fund for this year Grandkids funding request of $50,000. I'll carry you through. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
I just can't. Thank you so much.
You're
This
welcome.
is so grateful. We're
You're
very,
welcome.
very grateful. So thank you.
You
very
guys do an
much.
amazing job,
Yeah,
and you have
So,
wonderful staff.
I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you for
Thank you.
supporting
Yeah,
us.
I'm gonna cry. And I wasn't expecting to cry until later.
Yeah.
Open forum. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Next
And you
is,
don't have to stay. You could go.
Yeah.
Just to compose yourself. Get your knees to stop shaking.
okay, next is KFFR funding request. Is Steve or
There.
anybody from KFFR on?
I don't. Please raise your hand if you're with KFFR. Please raise your hand if you're with KFFR.
You might need to tell them how to do that. Some are new.
You may have to click on the more button and select raise hand. There may be an icon on your screen that says raise hand. If you're with KFFR, please raise your hand. Okay.
Okay, their request is for $20,000. And there's nobody here to ask questions to or comment, so.
You did a good presentation of our last meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'm a volunteer with that organization. If it could be possible to alter your
Yeah,
agenda.
can you identify your?
Yes, I apologize. I'm Richard Chimino. My address is just outside of city limits, 275 County Road 520. I was here for other items, but I happened to see Steve Skinner in rehearsal down the road. And depending on how this conversation goes, if you're able to adjust your agenda, I might be able to pull him in here to answer some questions.
I think we're okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
if that's the
yeah.
case, then all right.
Right.
Just want to let you.
I think we're okay, right?
We'll see how the discussion goes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
That we approve their request for $20,000.
Coming
I don't
from,
know,
the American,
recovery.
Okay.
Rest plan. dollars.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Don't get used to it, Steve.
Yeah.
Show up next time.
Okay. Right.
Well, you know,
I'd shop for 20 grand.
one of the things about the radio station is all the communication goes down, you can still turn on the radio.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, Grand County EMS mill levy.
My name is Robert Good. I'm the Grand County EMS chief. I am bringing up, I was told that you guys have my PowerPoint.
Yes.
Otherwise, it'll be a lot of pointing to this. While they're setting that up, what we're doing is I'm here with my deputy chief, Alan Pulliam. We're just trying to be transparent with all the different towns and Rotary and Chamber of Commerce as to why we're going to be asking for a mill levy this year, why it'll be put on the ballot. So we've put together a slideshow presentation to hopefully answer questions, and I can answer some more questions at the end of this presentation. It's more for public information to everybody in all the areas. So you can go ahead, next slide. So that's introduction. My name is Robert Good. As I said before, I'm the new chief for the past 2 years here in Grant County. I come from Colorado Springs, 32 years of EMS experience from Colorado Springs, and took over for Ray Jennings just a little over a year ago, actually a year and a half or so ago. So we've enjoyed it ever since. So, and Alan Pulliam's been with the agency for 30 years. So thank you. Next one. So just brief, obviously, anytime you call 911 Grand County, we respond to any of the 911 calls for emergency medical services where it's needed. Right now, I have 41 full-time staff. We operate out of 4 stations, Fraser, Granby, and Grand Lake and Kremling. Right now, at this point, we have 8 primary response ambulances and 3 reserves. This is just a support from Chief Hallsworth, who's in here with us right now. So he's been part of Grand County EMS over the years, and also the East Grand Fire District Chief. So that's just something he put together for us. So this is how our budget kind of works out. 1%, we rely on taxes, or I'm sorry, on grants and other sources of income. 44% of our budget is property taxes, which is about 1.6 million is what we're budgeting for in 21. And then 55% of our budget is patient service fees. Again, right now we're expecting 1.9 from that at this point. Next one. Calls for service to Grand County continue to rapidly increase and are projected to double by 2027 compared to 2015. Right now, from 2019 to today, we are 11% ahead of what it was back in 19. We aren't comparing 20 because 20 was an oddball year for us with COVID and everything. So our 19 numbers, we ran a little over 2,600 calls in 19, and 20 we dropped to 2,300. Again, it's just obviously what happened to everybody. The volume dropped for everything. Right now, how do we plan to meet the demands? Well, our plan right now is to retain more of our existing trained EMS staff. The past 2 years, we've seen a 39% turnover rate. Majority of that is due to pay. As I'm sure a lot of departments are feeling the burden of pay, we haven't been able to remain competitive with the front range folks. We're a little different in how we staff. My crews work 48 hours on and 4 days off. So 48, 96-hour shifts is what we do. So that gives us the opportunity to bring in front range employees up here. They stay 2 days, they go home for 4 days, and then it just a recycle. Our plan right now is to hire 6 additional staff members over the next few years. We need to add a full-time ambulance to our schedule for the county with that growth. We need to rebuild 2 of our oldest stations in Granby and Fraser. Fraser Station is falling apart and is just turning into a money pit. It was built in the 40s, was actually moved from another lot. The county moved it to that lot. So there's what's that?
No, my uncle built that building right where it stands.
Oh, I'm just telling you what I was told then. They said it moved. So maybe the garage?
The garage did.
Okay,
Yeah,
the garage was built.
The building itself was the
Yeah.
library. Yeah, it was built.
Because those were 2 separate pieces of buildings that we've had to put together.
Yeah.
So, and our main station in Granby was the old Mountain Parks Electric with the old World War II type era buildings that are being used as crew quarters right now. Can you go back one? I didn't. There we go. We also need to purchase another ambulance to add that full-time staff. And we still have 3 aging ambulances that we will have to replace in the next 3 to 5 years.
Before you move on, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, are you planning on raising that building or remodeling it?
Well,
Because it's funny, that's, anyhow.
we're,
Earlier, we were just
We were
talking
just
about it. It
talking
would be
about
great
that
to
building.
have you in another location because you're right in the middle of our downtown commercial area.
we have a lot of options that we will explore. It's hard to explore the options right now until we have
Yeah.
the mill levy ahead of us to look at other. We're talking with East Grand Fire right now. Our goal is to have 2 ambulances up in this area 24/7. And East Grand Fire is planning on building another fire station, a satellite station up across from Winter Park, which we're going to try to jointly go into them with them to put one of the ambulances up there and one here in Fraser to better cover the area with the ambulances. So some of this stuff is still up on the air on what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. A lot of it just depends. I mean, building costs are so unpredictable right now with everything. And with the mill levy, if that were to come through, we're still looking at a 2-year before we see a new building. So there are plenty of options out there for us.
Don't forget to talk to us.
We will, we will.
Okay,
I
thank
promise. 100%.
Okay,
Well, I can't do the deal. That's why Rich is here.
okay.
So the most cost-effective action to raise local property tax mill levy by 1.75. There'll be a slide that explains that a little bit more to you guys. This would provide an additional $1.5 million for the staffing, building, and vehicle needs to serve the county safely, efficiently, and effectively. This is a breakdown. The top row up there is our existing budget, what we're projected to have on our existing 2 mills. And then the comparison adjustments on what we want to do. And then the annual total new. So a lot of numbers up there. I think you guys all have the availability to look at that. I'm more than willing for questions at a later time and stuff like that. Next one. So on our website, there is a calculator for folks who have questions about what it's going to look like if we do get that 1.75. At this point right now, $500,000 home, you're looking at about an increase of $62 each a year. And that's $5 per month if you're on an escrow. And then again, if people, depending on if they want to look at, which I'm sure they do, what that's going to be, the impact to their pocket, the calculator is on our website. Our steps, as I said before, is trying to hit all the communities, all the different towns. I want to be very transparent as the EMS chief as to what we're going to use the money for and why it's important that we get it to serve the community, to serve the visitors of this great county. We're gathering feedback. So as what you just brought up, the feedback would be, if this were to happen, we would meet with everybody and kind of figure out what's the best plan for us. County commissioners are considering a ballot initiative. Ultimately, voters will get the chance to decide on this. Just another support from from Grand County Sheriff Brett. So next one. And then Grand County Chief Brad White is supporting this also. Resources and information for more, they can go to our website. I am always available by phone to meet with anybody, any groups or anything like that that want to meet with us. I've also talked to Chief Trainer. I know he's not here today, but he also sees the need for us to bring in more services to the county. So that's it in a nutshell. Can I answer any questions for anybody?
So, user fees, have you guys looked at that at all, or?
They're significant.
I know they are, but can they, but obviously this is a, we got to look at all sources. I mean, what's our town mill levy? It's,
5.86.
yeah, so you're getting up, within a point of where we're at for the entire community. It's a challenge.
Sure, it is.
And the user fee also, a second part of that question, is there any kind of sliding scale so that people have the ability to use the service if they can't afford it and obviously need it?
So there isn't a sliding scale. What we do, for residents of Grand County, there's a discount for the residents in there. Right now, I think, what are we at? 500 for discount for residents in there. And, we don't sit there and say, all right, here's a bill. If you don't pay it like tomorrow, then, things are going to get nasty. We have a long history of working with everyone to make those bills payable over a year. I mean, we've got people still paying 5-year ago bills.
Yeah.
So we work really good. We've looked at so many different options. The mill levy is really the only way to guarantee that we can do what we need to do over this 7-year. I'm saying 7-year, I'm stretching out to 10 years. This is a good 7 to 10 year plan for us, what we're planning on doing.
How do we compare on fees to surrounding jurisdictions?
We're low. We're lower. Our mill levy is one of the lowest, if
Our
not
user fees, I'm sorry.
we're still low compared to front range ambulance services and stuff like that.
How
We
about
still,
mountain counties?
we're low.
Yeah,
We're lower. We still go to the commissioners anytime we try to raise fees or anything like that. So right now, I mean, we are one of the lowest ones in the rural areas also.
I hope you'll at least look at that. So,
Yep.
and I understand, Katie, I mean, it's a service when you got to have it, you got to have it. And medical bills are already astronomical, but
They are.
it's also, I mean, we got to balance this too. So,
It's a tough juggling act, and
Yeah.
and we're doing our best to make that dollar stretch more, with the mill levy increase. If we get it, we're going to be able to be more able to look at like grants that are out there, both state and federal grants, because right now we just don't have the money on hand to go after some of these grants.
or matching.
So,
Yeah.
so, they're either matching or you get paid back once you buy the piece of equipment or whatever it is. And that's been a struggle over the years, and this is going to help us with all that. So that dollar is going to stretch even further once this goes through, if it goes through, hoping.
Any
Good
other
luck.
questions? No, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, next is the Fraser Valley Parkway bypass letter of support.
Mr. Mayor, this is an issue that's coming before the Board of County Commissioners. I'm glad Commissioner Chimino's here to answer maybe any questions about that. We put together a draft letter of support. Michael, we've got a copy of that if we can bring that up on our screen. I assume that everyone's familiar with where the location of this Fraser Valley Parkway is proposed to go. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I've heard this before. And I apologize if this was not in the packet, so you could review this in advance. Last week, we had some end of the week vacancies and mass scramble with the holiday, so it didn't get in the packet. So I apologize for that. We'll do a better job in the future. So what we're asking is, number one, is the board in support of this parkway? And if so, are there any amendments or changes or recommendations you have to this letter of support?
Jane, there's a couple of them here.
I think it's critical to our long-term transportation needs. That connection.
Yeah, one quick edit. Towards the end, it says, well, offering access to wetlands. Actually, it should be probably views of wetlands, because obviously this would not put the public out on those wetlands that belong to the private property owners back there. So,
Catch, Andy.
Thank you.
yeah. But I concur with Katie. This is just critical. And I think I'm glad Rich is here tonight. He's been working, from what I understand from him, to kind of separate the two parts of this parkway. The other part of the parkway goes north from County Road 5 to Tabernash. And that may be important in the future, but right now the county has put so much money into improvements to the 4x4 road that it's really resolves that. And most of the opposition to the parkway has been coming from as I understand it, from the Tabernash end. And I think the county is, again, I'm glad Rich is here. Maybe he can speak more to this, but you guys have not been receiving a lot of support letters for the parkway, but I think that's because it's really is two parts to this rather than one part.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. This is Richard Chimino again. And I'll just, if it's okay, I'll just stand here and let you guys discuss and be available to field questions. But yeah, I would say definitely there's been a large number of letters in opposition, and understandably so. And I think this board may have a lively discussion tonight, and that's fair. Most of the opposition is, as Andy indicated, from the Tabernash area. And I've tried to say many times, and if McKenna's listening, I can't speak from fellow commissioners, but that definitely is the north leg of this parkway. And it's basically the Fraser to Granby Trail. If any of you use that trail system, it's right by the ice rink there, and that road, if you bike it or hike it, you can walk most of it today. Some of it still has to be sort of made, but it would come out near where the future development Red Hawk Ranch is going to be. And that may be an issue, is that I think as that subdivision was approved, the Fraser Valley Parkway was one of the two required accesses in and out of that neighborhood. And so if we don't build it now and we build it in the future, just maintain the easement and maybe never build it, that two accesses might have to be re-engineered with that developer. So that's an issue that's unresolved right now. But I've voiced several times how I want to push that off. I don't see a need for that at the near term. Like County Road 5 suffices. Us locals, we know from before Tabernash, even in Tabernash, you can work your way to County Road 5 and then basically avoid 40 during the Sunday afternoon, Monday mornings. It's just this huge backup that, and then, try to voice both sides. A lot of the business community feels that. I got a phone call on Friday, a business in Tabernash, and they said, we know the people are stuck and they come in our store. And so, I don't want to hold people hostage in traffic though, to try to help business, but I don't want to hurt business either. It's a balance. It's a balance. And so anyway, I'll concur with what Andy said. The letters have been primarily in opposition, primarily from Tabernash. I think the delay in that leg satisfies most of those complaints in the next 3 to 5 to 8 years. If we do have to build that in the future, we'll see. Widening US 40 is often stated as, why don't you widen 40? US 40 should be 4 lanes, 2 lanes each way, all the way through, except through town. But we are pressing CDOT. We have been for years, and we will continue, and that will eventually happen. We just can't turn that on immediately. I'm sorry, I came in off. I concur with what Andy said, and I'll stand by.
Okay, great. Any board comments?
And I think the other thing that's important about this is we don't want this. There's some really good ways to design streets for low speeds. I don't know if anybody's traveled Ski Adwald Road since it's been put through the Rome development. They do bump outs from the curbs with trees. Boulder does a lot of this. They've done a lot of it in different parts of the Front Range where streets visually look fairly complicated, so it doesn't invite speed. We don't want to invite this to be a thoroughfare. If you want to get through the valley 99% of the time, you should stick on 40. But if the county continues down the road of 1,200 units over at Grand Park, hopefully not anymore, then there has to be some other way for people to work their way north from that side of the railroad tracks. So, and I think that, this would be a long discussion, but possibly connecting Eisenhower with this so that there's some other ways in and out. But what we're trying to do is to protect Old Town Fraser because we have narrow rights of way. We have a narrow enough US 40 that actually CDOT has shown a schematic of how 40 could be 4 lanes through Fraser, but it's not a pretty picture. I mean, it was just such a narrow right of way and ones at angles to all the other streets. But that's just not a solution. The solution needs to be that people traveling from one point to another in the community are, number one, encouraged to get on their bike or walk, but because this could also be combined with a trail or at least a decent separated sidewalk. But number two, they can take a short trip in their car and not have to go out and make 2 left-hand turns on, a left-hand turn onto 40 and a left-hand turn back off of 40 again, which is true so many places in this community. We just don't have good ways to, even though we have such a small town, we have no good ways to get back and forth across the community other than out on the highway. So it's a safety issue, but I don't want to compromise the lovely feeling that we have on the west side of town too. And the other important thing here that will help the people on the west side of town is that we've had a really ongoing drainage problem over there. All you have to do is drive down those streets and see all the pumps going and the crawl spaces full of water. And we've had several proposals that were pretty expensive to establish drainage along that backside of town from the wetland. This parkway could resolve that problem. So by engineering this so that it carries that drainage away from that side of the community. So, and it needs to be designed with enough for trees and vegetation to keep that good feeling that we have on the backside of town. Nobody likes to see a new street. They really don't. But we have to recognize we've got growth. We've got people here. We have to have the responsibility and the fortitude to make it sane ways to get around our community. So.
Okay, well said.
Any other?
I've gotten questions about how much it's going to cost and who's going to pay for it.
Thank you, Eileen. If we proceed, if we ask for funding from the towns, we haven't yet, and there's been no commitment. So if that ask may not happen, that ask might happen with a sorry, we can't. I would say my answer at this time would be if this leg is built, and that's one of the reasons I also want to delay that north leg. That's a long, expensive stretch. This relatively short stretch, unless people step up, if we proceed, I'm 99% sure it'd be a 100% county funding. We might go to the state for grants, but we have not made any formal asks yet. And if we do, I think within your budget cycles, it's I don't know how that answer would come. I would not be at all surprised by a sorry, we can't help, if that was your reply.
We are the only community, really. It ends before.
Well,
No.
you have to
residents
recognize
need
too,
to
Eileen, that this connects all the way. Eventually, this will connect across the west side of.
If we were to
Grand
make
Park.
an ask of
Yeah.
Fraser, we would ask Winter Park as well. They're very close together, but Eileen's right. The thing does end, but yeah, the residents are affected. So
But also, Rich, I mean, one of the main things that's driving the need for this is that 1,200 unit development. I mean, things are working fairly well right now. They will not be working once 1,200 units are added over there. So it's not an unreasonable ask to get some of the money out of that project.
the developer
Right.
may also be, yeah, I mean, I suppose we might be somewhat uniform in an ask as we go forward. We got some real hurdles to overcome with that POW camp. And real quick, I forgot to mention the opposition to the wetlands. So this road was sort of placed at the highest point of the wetlands. And I guess the POW camp also was built at the highest point of the wetlands because that looks like it intersects it. So it's going to cost more to safely build the parkway and make sure we're not destroying history. It can still be done. You have to have like a consultant on site during that phase. But we have to additionally create new wetlands elsewhere, which we have a plan to do. The Corps of Engineers will force the county to do that. It may not satisfy those who don't want to see disruption of the wetlands, but that's that's what we do. We'll make more. It should balance out. I just want to try to address that somewhat.
Wasn't that camp only there for 18 months?
I don't know the duration,
that
Parnell,
long?
but I think it's about close. I think it was a fairly short period of time.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that would make it historical, my opinion. It seems like it was a temporary camp.
I'm with you. We might try to negotiate with the State Historical Preservation Office, SHPO. It's not designated a National Historic Site yet, although with our, we paid for them to do some archive research, and now it's a little more established and formal. But a catch-22. But they required us to do that survey before they would. The Corps of Engineers need SHPO's blessing for us to make this road. So it was an unavoidable discovery.
It provides a nice opportunity to put a sign, some signage there and a little pull off and some information about
Yeah.
it. So,
Well, it'd be good because they're
Yeah.
getting rid of everything else of our history. So,
sorry.
they're getting rid of the rest of our history. So I guess we should
Exactly,
keep
yeah.
we had war
And
camps.
the prisoners should have a right to hold us hostage at this point, don't you think?
I guess, yeah.
Well,
Design
and
location.
I think, I don't know if there's any other prisoner of war camps where the prisoners came back to and wanted to come back to. And I said,
We had trouble getting them out of Fraser.
yeah, right. I says, I think that says something about Fraser.
Yeah.
Any other?
Jane has her hand.
Jane, do you want to?
You have to
Yeah,
come
you
up to
come
the
up
mic
to
and
the-
introduce yourself.
I guess I have a clarifying question first, and that is,
Who are you?
who am I? My name's Jane Mather. I'm a resident of Fraser at 451 Muse Drive. I want to ask a clarifying question first. Actually, I want to first express my disappointment that there wasn't any reference to materials that were relevant to this discussion in the agenda. Thank you to the town manager for sending me an email this afternoon that their draft letter hadn't been created yet. But I find it, I spent quite a bit of time today trying to find the relevant documents in terms of the study that was presented to the county and finding the, trying to find the, I did eventually also find the study that was presented regarding the review of the POW camp. And I guess my first question, so I just would like to, and I know you're very overwhelmed by the new job that you have, but if you really want to have happy residents providing input, it really helps if you can provide us with the information rather than letting us spend hours of our time looking for it. Let's see, thanks to, I did contact the staff at the county, and they were very responsive. I actually got a quick email back from them, but they sent me the wrong information. They sent me the information about Granby's CDOT study rather than the Fraser one. So, but they did get back to me quickly, so that was good. So my first question, I guess don't like to see part of the character of our community, especially open space that surrounds the community, destroyed or changed in negative ways until it's absolutely necessary. And one aspect of that is the wetlands. Given that we've got such a dry climate, it's important that we have wetlands that absorb the water and keep it in the fields before it gets sent down the river. So one of the questions that I actually I'm hoping Rich might be able to clarify is in the report from Metcalf, it said that the wetland studies have not been completed in our in the meadow because for areas 3, 4, and 7, because the landowners have not given the approval for the studies to go on.
Sure, Jane. Yeah, there's 3 landowners, and they actually have given permission, and they're very, at the last meeting we had, they were sort of, they felt offended because they had given permission. We just haven't executed the studies yet. So we'll be able to complete them, and we wanted to wait until we discovered what's there. We have a decision to make. We pay an extra, if my memory is right, I think it's 30 to 50K for the consultant to watch us construct and watch that we're not, if through the course of digging things up, we find something, there'll be a halt. That's why we have to pay for that person to be there. So we have a decision to make. And if we decide to incur that expense, then we would complete the wetland studies. And we'd also, part of that study would be where we'd build new wetlands I referenced. So all this is in the works, but that is accurate. We haven't done it yet, but it's not in the phase to do it yet. And we will, and the landowners will, they've told us they will grant us access to complete them. So we'll be able to do it right.
So, yeah, I'm one of those people that's worried about the wetlands, and I'm not so sure that my primary worry is the wetlands in terms of not my primary worry is the wetlands, but I think that needs to be addressed. I think that's, to me, that's more important than the what exists out in the field that's remnants of the POW site. I just think we need to have good wetlands to help our rivers in our community and help our natural resources in our community. What I am more concerned about in terms of the parkway, for emergency access, I recognize that I live in a rural community, and so I'm happy with the extra time that emergency vehicles can take to use 731, the road that goes behind that 731, the road that goes from the rodeo field to County Road 5. I think that's for emergency purposes, I think that's a suitable road. In terms of improving the traffic congestion that we have in our community, I don't think that we should be digging up a meadow in our area until the rest of the roadways are completed to alleviate that congestion. So the congestion that comes from Traves Tabernash down to Winter Park exists because there isn't a good road between Fraser and Winter Park. Adding in a bypass through our meadow is not going to solve that problem until there's a 4-lane road between Fraser and Winter Park. And I don't know whether or not, sometimes it gets better once you get into Winter Park, but I haven't been driving through there recently, so I don't know whether it's bad from Winter Park to Berthoud Pass as well. But basically, this road through the meadow isn't going to help anything until we actually fix the roads from Fraser to Winter Park. And so I encourage you to not support, I believe eventually we're going to need this road, but I don't think it should be there until the rest of the infrastructure and roads in the community are there to make it worthwhile. Same thing goes for the road that connects Old Victory Road to County Road 72. That road needs to be improved. If the reason for this road through the parkway is to be a bypass around Fraser, it needs to have a connection to Old Victory Road. And right now there's no connection to Old Victory Road. When the 1,200 properties go in Byers Peak, when Byers Peak Properties starts construction, the main place we're going to need roadways is from that property to US 40 and to Winter Park. And once more, this parkway the parkway extension doesn't do any good for that. There's money that's going to need to be spent on County Road 72 in order to widen, the road from Safeway to Byers Peak property. The county has told us we need money to build that road and make that better to access Byers Peak property. There's money that's going to be needed to widen US 40. There's money that's going to be needed to go from County Road 72 over to Old Victory Road, wherever that's going to go, because the town of Fraser hasn't really gotten that solidified yet. So there are lots of other uses for our roadway funds. and lots of other places to disrupt the roadways in our community before we go out and destroy them at all.
Okay, thanks, Jane. You want to ask any other public now that we've opened that up to raise their hand? And
If anybody would like to provide a comment on the Fraser Parkway extension, please raise your hand and I will unmute you so that you can provide a comment. To raise your hand, you should be able to select a raise hand feature or click more and raise hand, or actually click on your name and you'll see an option to raise a hand.
okay, nobody from online.
Todd Holsworth, East Grand Fire District. I've been in support of the Fraser Valley Parkway and its various kind of fits and starts to hopefully get done since I think my first letter to the Corps of Engineers was probably 1999. So it's it's been a long-term project, but I'm patient. The section that was built under the overpass certainly was a help. Continue it on to County Road 50 to get to County Road 5 will allow emergency access that's dependable and usable for our trucks. I'm sorry, 731 is a fairly poorly constructed road and very narrow, has very limited opportunities for improvement because it's just a very almost an informal road that's just been improved. Doesn't really help us much. 50 South, yes, that did help. So I'm very much in favor of it. I would say that I'm not nearly as impressed with the quality of the wetlands and stuff in that area behind Fraser. I've seen pictures of that whole area. Basically, has been an industrial site for wood products. On the other side, you can see the steam plant below the powers. That there's railroad tracks that went across that coming out of the experimental forest. That whole area back there has been impacted by humans for a long time, and flumes I think came through there. I mean, it's if you look at pictures, there's been an awful lot of human activity that's impacted that whole area back there. I think the prisoner of war camp that was there for a limited period of time was just another impact on it, and it's gone. The history of the POW camp, it's in the photographs and has been mentioned, the memories of people that come back that were prisoners. That's the historical value of the prisoner of war camp, and I believe in history, absolutely. I spent a few days getting our old fire truck that's 91 years old. I love history, but I like things you can actually see and use. And the diorama that was built up at the, I think it's still up at the museum that shows the camp, that's cool. The photographs, amazing. The memories of people that come back, absolutely fantastic.
Okay.
The site itself, no. The other is that the road system we have now is basically the same road system that was in place when that prisoner of war camp was built. Almost exactly every road we're using now, it's the same roads. I don't think our traffic situation is the same as it was in 1939. It's changed a bit.
That sounds like you're in support.
I'm in support and I continue to be in support.
Okay,
Thank you,
no
Tom.
more public. Any
Well,
other from,
I had a question for Rich. Those lots that are out to the owners of the properties, they're privately owned. The land that the road's going through is mostly private land.
Entirely private land is my understanding.
And isn't most of that private land suited for development at some point in the future?
I think under our land use policies, over 40 acres can be developed. If they get water augmentation, they have to go through that process. I have not heard from the three owners any desire to do that. They desire a slow road, as been mentioned, curvy. They like a bike path. They actually, they're 50-50. They kind of would maybe prefer it not be built, but they understand the situation has been described here. So I'm trying to answer, naturally I can't speak for them, but I'm just trying to relay what I've heard in conversations. So I'll try to be as transparent with you as I can. Yeah, I've heard a lot of the, there's the support and there's opposition. A lot of the opposition is along the lines of, well, don't destroy the wetlands. And like you said, we haven't said that tonight. They're just going to develop it. I guess they could. I guess maybe if the community wants a condition that we build this, we get conservation easements across those properties. I guess we could have that discussion with the owners perhaps and overcome that opposition. The current owners have stated just verbally, it's just verbal, it's not being binding, that they have no plans for such, but then they have heirs and who knows. So maybe we consider that a condition. I suppose we could explore that.
As you said, this has been in process for about 20 years. We finally have willing landowners to work with us on it. I would like to make a motion that the board approves and requests that the mayor sign this letter of support to the Grand County Board of Commissioners in support of the Fraser Valley Parkway.
With the one edit on the wetlands,
What's that?
the one edit, the view of wetlands.
View of the
Yeah,
wetlands, right.
Yeah.
View of wetlands.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All in favor?
Hi.
Right.
Opposed?
Because of the time crunch, I'm opposed. No, but we didn't.
Yeah, the one that came late, yeah.
Okay, special use permit for Cornerstone Concrete Batch Plant. Who's running this one?
Russell.
Good evening, Board, Mayor, Russell Pennington, Public Works Director. Attached in your board packet tonight is a set of comments that I provided the county for a proposed special use permit for a concrete batch plant located just off of 721. I don't have a presentation per se, but if you have any questions about my comments, I did provide that to the county, and they will have that for their July 13th, 2021 County Commissioners meeting.
So I only had one. I thought that your points were excellent, that we need to follow up. We do need concrete. We do need concrete, but we just want to make sure that all our bases are covered
Right.
and it's safe.
Correct.
And the health and welfare of our community is not put at stake. There was one section, I took a little screenshot of it. Let me find it. I think it was section 5 under recommendations, and it had to do with air quality. And that was blocked out. In the winter, I know that because of with the snowmaking and the inversion that we get from that area, that cause is not necessarily, well, it adds the air quality concerns for residents of Fraser, but I think that air quality should not be taken out of there as something that they're held accountable for. I'm going to text you my picture, Rich, of that section. I'll just do that. That's my only thought.
Then my comment is that there's so many conditions on this, that CDPHE do their approval, that the traffic study be completed. Normally, these things are completed before local approval. And the reason for that is that CDPHE and CDOT and the other reviewing agencies provide input. And then you take that input into your decision-making process. It's very strange and I understand the need for it and the urgency for it, but again, has impact, these type of batch plants, and it should go through the process. And the process would have all these review letters and reviews done and before the county makes their decision. So I would much prefer to have that information be to make a really reasoned. Obviously, we don't make the decision. This batch plant's in the county, but we appreciate the fact that Russell did some work on this and that we have a chance to discuss this because this batch plant does have impact to the community. So, and I would prefer to see all those documents done before any kind of decision was made.
I believe that was the intent of why we put together concerns. I wouldn't say they're objections, they're more concerns.
Right.
Because I don't think anyone is against a batch plant.
Correct.
But it seems like this was a rushed procedure and there was some complications. We only got 1 day notice before it went to the county planning commission. And so we couldn't really have a chance to make comments and review. But when we read the application, you know, the builder was making assertions that, you know, permits aren't needed. We did check and said, yes, they are needed. And traffic studies not needed because it take too long. Well, yes, traffic studies are needed because whatever this batch plan we do, we want to understand what the impact is to our roads, to Old Town, and where the access points will be. We want to understand where the water is going to be used for this batch plant. I mean, I even got an email today. Someone said that he's already started construction of the batch plant. I haven't verified that yet, but you know, so it's almost like a pattern. We just want to make sure that we slow down, we just do things right, just like you said. Let's get the permits, let's get the approvals. Even we reached out to CDOT, and CDOT said, yes, you will need a traffic study for that. So
Correct. Well, those traffic studies help us because, again, I don't want to say the wrong side of the tracks, but it's difficult to get from that side of the tracks to the highway without, you know, if there's one underpass, one route. And that street, we have tremendous challenges with already, the street to Safeway and to the traffic light. Trucks would naturally like to probably use town to get out if there's problems down there. Or, again, we've got to somehow protect our narrow streets in this community. And this kind of harkens back to the discussion we just had. We don't have a community that's was designed in 1939 to handle a town of when we had elections. So that one year was, I think Kirk Clanky lost because his brother and he didn't show up to vote. You know, 14-16. We had an special election. It was 16-16. So, you know, those were lovely days, but
Anyway, let's keep
we
going.
don't have those kind of days anymore. So but that's the point, is that we need these studies. We need all the information before we can provide the kind of input the county needs to make an effective decision.
So I would have a question, just in kind of summation. I don't want to cut off any of the discussion. We've already supplied this letter of comment to the county. In fact, I spoke with Rich last week about this, and he recommended I go ahead and send that out to the county commissioners, which I did. So they're in receipt of this. Are there any other actions that you would want based on our conversation tonight? Maybe a follow-up letter that the board discussed this and is insisting on ensuring that proper permitting and procedure are being followed.
Well, I think, Rich, you've heard what we have to say tonight, and the information you guys provided. It seems not another burden on our staff to.
And I echo what Katie said about air quality, because any plant, and I know it says that this is a special one that's not going to affect the air, but
We should still make sure they are
yes.
held accountable for quality.
And another thought I had is, it says a 5-mile radius. Is that a standard, or, I mean, that goes all the way to Tabernash? Well,
Oh, no, for
no,
delivery.
just for the permit.
We even struggle with some of how do you monitor that? Who's going to be out there doing traffic counts, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, is once this is
Yeah.
approved and they're producing concrete, is it going to be sold to Kremlin and Hot Sulphur Springs and up to Grand Lake, you know? We're being told one thing, but we got no way to verify this. And again, I don't think we're against the batch plan, but we just want to make sure that there are safeguards in place so that the town's interest are at least being considered.
Okay. Any further action?
So, the letter's been sent. so we're
I think
good.
Rich
Thank you,
is here and
Rich.
got her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
But
We're not to public comment.
Okay, we are now at resolution 2021-0701, professional services agreement with Kffr.
Okay, so that's me, and I'll be real quick because it's getting late. But I've had a lot of calls in the last 6 months to a year on the vacant property that's in the town of Fraser. And a lot of people are looking to invest here and asking questions about some of the visions in the downtown strategic plan. Primarily the Victoria Village lot and the Clayton Court. And so what I did was I reached out to Colorado Water Conservation Board to see if there was any funding or technical assistance available to help us with our floodplain mapping, because the floodplain maps that we have for the town, I put kind of a snippet in the memo, and there was also a link to the floodplain maps for the town of Fraser. We don't have any base flood elevations for the area from County Road 804 to 8. So Elk Creek through there to St. Louis Creek as well. And we, had lots of conversations with them. And in the end, they reached back out to us and they were able to find $32,230 that they would pay a company called Micro Baker International to assist us with our with hydraulics analysis. And what the town of Fraser needed to come up with was the surveying. And we reached out to a couple of local surveyors. We got an estimate from Kffr, Mike Curvin. And that's the resolution in front of you tonight. Is we're looking for approval of this professional services agreement with Kffr so that he can provide the survey work. And so we're getting, this kind of goes back to some of the conversations we've had. We need to be proactive instead of reactive. And we have people knocking at the door, but there are some unknowns. We only have the zone A, which means the information was taken from topo maps, and people are afraid to make that investment without knowing this data. So I don't know if you guys have any questions on that, on anything in the packet. But this is a non-budgeted item. I did reach out to Beth in finance, and there is money in other professional services, which is general ledger account number 1045-370. The budget for this year was 90,000. What's left in the budget is 62,837. And this account also included 40,000 for town manager recruitment that will not be used.
I'd like to make a motion.
Sorry.
Do we need
Oh,
any
am I
more
leaving
discussion?
again?
No.
You're not doing the search, right?
Okay, Katie.
Can I make a motion to approve this? Any
I
more
just wanted
discussion?
one comment, if I could, really quick. I'm really excited about this. I've been, the flood potential in this community, I don't think is high, but we've got a managed water system all the way from Upper Winter Park all the way through. I hope this might grow a little bit eventually. This gets us a good start with that, but we need to look at this overall picture. I'm really glad we're doing this. So sorry, Katie, that was just a
Okay,
quick comment.
that's all right. I'd like to make a motion to resolution 2021-0701 professional services agreement with Kffr.
For a second,
I second.
all in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now,
You're
next
welcome.
is
Thank
United
you.
Business Bank update approved signers.
So we previously did this when the
Wes.
previous town manager resigns and we brought in our interim town manager. United Business Bank requires a motion in our minutes in order to change the signers. We're proposing to remove Weston Levanchi and add Ed Canyon manager as a signer. Motion for this.
Somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make another motion.
Jeez, fire.
Aye, it's 9:30. I, Katie Souls, move to update the signers at United Business Bank, removing the previous interim town manager, Wesley Levanchi, and adding the current town manager, Ed Cannon. All other current signers will remain on the account. Mayor Philip Vandernail, Mayor Pro Tem Eileen Waldo, and Town Clerk Antoinette McVeigh. Finance Manager Beth Williams will retain access to the account, but will not have signing ability.
For a second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're now at notice of resolution 2020-1005 regarding deed of conservation easement. Yep, I do.
This is kind of a technical provision because we wanted, the board adopted this resolution back in, I believe it's October of last year, declaring the earlier conservation easement on Elk Creek invalid. It was noted that there was no legal description attached to it at that time. And in order to make sure the property records accurately reflect what the board did, it was suggested we record this further notice that has not only the resolution, but also the invalid conservation easement and the legal description attached. So I think it's, Melinda Beck prepared this. I think it's appropriate and I recommend the board approve it.
Is it just Elk Creek or Cousins also, Rod, or?
Just Elk Creek, the earlier one that was done.
Okay.
Okay, any more comments from the board? Motions?
I appreciate that explanation. I'd like to move that we approve resolution 2020-1005 regarding deed of conservation easement.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That was a, did you catch that, Antoinette?
Right.
We are now at open forum. So anybody from the public, this is your chance to address the board. The board will most likely not respond back, but you'll have 3 minutes. And please state your name and whether or not you live in the town of Fraser. And you can raise your, it's the same process as before. Digitally raise your hand if you would like to address the board.
So please raise your hand. Same deal as before. You may see it in the bottom right-hand section of the participants panel. Otherwise, you can select more. You do not see a raise hand feature anywhere else on your screen.
Okay, no public comment. We are now at updates. Any updates?
Mine's in the packet, so if there's any questions, I could elaborate if need be, but this was kind of abbreviated update. But I also wanted to put a list of those 30-day goals and where I am on that list. So,
Just a little side, like, I think that we should get some kind of a thank you we can all sign for Wes. Get us an address.
I already signed that.
You already signed it?
Yeah.
For all of us?
No.
We didn't get to sign it?
I signed a letter of recommendation. for
Okay.
it, yeah.
All right,
But,
well,
yeah, I think we should
I'll-
as well. Yeah.
I can bring a card. We can, we have any town of Fraser nice cards and just bring it in and we can all write them a little bit.
A few appropriate Fraser knickknacks too. So
some stickers.
yes, please.
Okay.
They're all good ones too.
Okay, we are now at the adjourn.
I just had one update that I wanted to provide. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So, we are doing a drop expansion. We did receive approved funding for a drop expansion at $55,000. So we have been working with Kffr for a site plan and some surveying work that we're also working with them on. And we have received the actual purchase order, so we had to do $55,000. So I can show
To the
you-
west on the old road bed.
I can show you a preliminary map right now. So. So this is becoming, the space of the drop has become an issue, as we've explained before, about capacity, especially in the peak holiday weekends. Just real quickly, this is the current facility right here. Here's the entryway right here. Here's the shed. Here's the facility. So we're looking at doing an expansion here, which will essentially double our site capacity. So we are working on that, and we do have grant funding for that. And I'm not anticipating any funds to come from the town unless we do go over budget, which hopefully we can keep this tight. The other announcement is that we have placed an order for 15-gallon page through trash bags that will be available probably in a few months due to the COVID manufacturing delays. But we will be providing a purple 15-gallon page through trash bag option and still carry the 40-gallon option as well. So
What will those cost?
350, I believe.
Okay.
So it's a relative ratio to the same cost per gallon as the 40-gallon bag.
Awesome.
Just a more reasonable option for people that can actually afford it. That's it. That's all I got.
How long is the contract with the current trash company?
Waste management is 2 years as of April of this year. So April 2023, we have the option to deny or renew an additional 2-year term.
We need to
Okay.
adjourn
I just
and
heard
read
good
it.
things about
Yeah.
Ranch Creek, that they're charging a lot less than what waste management charges.
Check out for sure for the next go round.
Yeah.
Where's Ranch Creek based on?
Up 125. I think it's,
Okay. I think they've reached out to me.
There's
Yeah.
dumpsters around up there. Members. Katie,
Okay, I move to adjourn our regular meeting.
is there a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we are, do you need to stop or can we just keep going?
I can.
Yeah.
Stop.